Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out on a Thursday night to Community by Design, our big, much anticipated alumni event tonight. I'm Mitch Ogden. I'm the director of the Honors College. We're grateful that you're here. We hope you enjoy the refreshments and keep going back, right? Please eat them up. They're there for you to enjoy. I'm really excited about tonight. I've been excited about tonight for many months. And so you've been introduced through all the promotion materials and the slides that have been running through. To our honors students in the room, you saw some of the honors projects. The structure of honors projects was a little different in the days of these three alumni, but the spirit of them is the same. So you saw the projects that they worked on, the mentors that they had, and so that continuity over 31 years of the Honors College is there, and you're having an experience similar to those of these alumni. I'm really just grateful, and I want to say thank you to Gina Norling, to Melanie Brunner, and Juliana Lucchesi for coming here and spending this time with us. Melanie has come from Michigan, and Juliana came all the way from Northern California, and Gina made the long drive from Mendota Heights this morning. But no matter the distance, they've come here. It's an honor to have them with us. In the day today, they've visited many classes. They've talked to many faculty and staff on campus here, and it's just been really energizing to see where you go and the places that you end up working and the experiences, and then to come back and feel a part, I hope, of a family that's been there for you all these years. Okay, I'm not going to yap for too long because we're really here to hear from these three. So the format of tonight, we're going to have three TED-style, quick-hitting, hard-hitting talks from our alumni, and then we're going to come and sit together. And we really are eager to engage your questions. So we've got mics on the floor, and so after the TED-style talks, please bring questions to ask any of the three alumni that are here. Maybe a question for one in particular or for all of them in general. So be thinking about those questions, follow-ups from the things that they share in their remarks tonight. Okay, so community by design. So you may know, right, this in the Honors College, this is the year of design, so the year of community. So all year we've been thinking about what it means to belong together, to work together, to create small and large communities, places where we have to share experiences, grow, and learn together. The campus-wide, this is the year of design, and thinking about how design thinking and design practice really functions in many different ways on this campus. So at first blush, maybe community by design just seems like a convenient and sort of uncreative mashup of the two themes of our campus. But I've been thinking about it, and I don't think that community and design are just themes. They're really forces, and they're everywhere, they're invisible but constant. And so I thought of them as like electromagnetic waves moving through the air around us all the time, always surrounding us, but not always detectable. And so on their own, they just hum along, community and design. But when the waves meet and when their frequencies align, then something really powerful happens. So physicists call this resonance. The energy of these two intersecting waves amplifies. And so what was ordinary, small, and maybe undetected becomes transformational. And so when people and places and purpose align, when our intentions meet belonging, then something larger than any single one of us emerges. And so I look here at all the people that have come and gathered here tonight in one place, and we bring a multitude of purposes. So people, place, and purpose, all here at once. That's what tonight is about. And so we've got community coming in this way, and we've got design coming in this way, and right here in this moment, through these three talks, we're going to see that amplification. And what I hope is that we feel that vibration. We feel that energy and that resonance in us, that it awakes something, it excites something, it elevates our thinking, our ideas, it inspires a new project, a new pursuit, a new question. That's what communities coming together can design: hope and possibility and a future. So here we are to witness that resonance together, and I'm excited to hear from our 3 alumni. So Gina, Melanie, and Juliana, welcome home and welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Mitch. I am so grateful to be with everybody here tonight. I really have no business talking to anybody about AI. I am not by any means an AI expert, but I work in the AI field. And I have a couple of comments that I wanted to share. AI lurking in your community is one of those. And when I was preparing this discussion, I revisited history, because one thing that I've learned after graduating from Stout, how important it is to understand your culture, the inheritance, and really the historics. Because history, you hear the cliche, history repeats itself. I don't know about that, but I know that it definitely recycles. So there is an element I wanted to share tonight, because I found this absolutely fascinating. And I recall this. Anybody familiar with the man Alan Turing? Okay, yay. We've got some computer science people here. So Alan Turing, his era, 1934, we're talking 100 years ago, a century ago, he writes the first paper about artificial intelligence, 1934. Today, 2026, 92 years later, we've been marketed to artificial intelligence being new. But that initial concept, that divine spark of inspiration, was brought to us by Alan Turing with his original papers. When we think about artificial intelligence, I really encourage people to pause and learn a little bit about the history of it, because it's much larger and longer than we're kind of led to believe. It's kind of a now thing. Everybody's doing AI, ChatGPT, these large language models. History recycles. And in my career, artificial intelligence was also called machine learning, was machine intelligence. And it's really a programmable machine. It is not necessarily human intelligence. And I think that is something that we need to think about as we're designing our communities, because we need to keep our sovereignty about us. The language that I use currently in my career is about sovereign AI. What does that exactly mean? Everybody wants to have their own instance of AI that's unique to them. We think about that as a digital twin, possibly. Your digital twin online doing you online. But remember and recall the human experience. I'm lost. There we go. Don't forget that. I think that's really important, because some things, and what I've learned and heard, I don't know if it's true, but AI is really a productivity tool that you could think it about. You could farm off some of those menial tasks, but I encourage people to not farm off their critical thinking skills, because that is actually part of that human experience that gives you such joy, is the creativity, the imagination, and everything that you bring forward, understanding your own personal human divinity. And I think that's important when we think about our communities and where we're headed, and you guys here, all as thought leaders going forward. These are some of the things I think about. And I think about the experience of AI, interacting with it, realizing that we're all quantum beings. It's not necessarily that AI, it's a machine, and it's definitely one that is built upon the mechanistic kind of thought of machine logic, not necessarily the full human experience with your electromagnetic field, as Mitch had talked about, and the resonance that you can create with others as you are designing and creating and thinking and imagining the new next future. So when you think of AI and using AI, I just encourage everybody to think about, just recall you are your own sovereign being, you're your own sovereign human. It's okay to use AI as your machine tool, but really consider and don't let your humanness atrophy with your creativity. That is your joy. And we can use AI to help us do some research, but even on the company that I currently work for is called Micro Devices, AMD. We build the GPUs that will outfit computers as well as large supercomputers. And there's even a disclaimer on there when you use AI, you don't want to put blind faith into it. Double check things. It isn't accurate. And there's a whole host of reasons for that, and I delved into that a little bit in the computer science classes earlier today and some of the discussions that we had, but we do need to keep in mind of technology's limits and not necessarily leveraging that technology to not see our experience through. I think that is all that I wanted to say on that, so please think about the history recycles, realize your own sovereignty, and that this is really a quantum experience for all of us.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight to visit with us and let us come back to our home. Our roots really are from Menominee, Wisconsin. We're going to change that huge picture of my face, which is a lot to look at. So I'm going to be talking about designing a place to belong. I have a design degree, as it said on that slide. And I brought notes because I like to just kind of go on all sorts of different rampages. Shelley remembers from my time in her class, so I do have some notes to look through too. I grew up moving every 4 years. New house, new school, new friends, new version of myself. But by the time I arrived at Stout, I wasn't just looking for a degree. I was looking for roots, which is what we're all looking for. The 4th floor of South Hall was my first home away from home, where icebreakers happened on the front lawn and where a girl walked up and asked about my band t-shirt, which was Dave Matthews' Summer of '05. She unknowingly started a 20-year friendship. She was my maid of honor, we had kids a week apart, and she is on the road right now to drive up tonight to hang out since we live 3 states apart now. And that is what roots look like. Over the next 3 years, we moved off campus, met a lot of wonderful people, tried new activities, pulled way too many all-nighters. The designers up here all know that. We talked about that earlier. We were perfecting our Pres-Tech projects, our final touches on painting studio with Professor Loom, but my projects for Shelley Pekka were never late, right? I don't think so. And then senior year was upon us. Some of you might recognize this building. And this is where my first real attempt at designing community took place. So this house is still here. It was a church, as you guys probably know. It's at the corner of 6th Street and 10th Avenue, and we were the first group of students that were in it after it was a church, which was also a very interesting experience. But we had 8 21-year-old women, 2 bathrooms, and 0 rule book. It was like a sorority without the bylaws. Some of us had lived together before, some hadn't. We were different majors, different personalities, and had very different stress responses during finals week. And yet, somehow, it worked. We learned how to apologize. We didn't avoid conflict, but we decided to build something together. That is how we made it work. We communicated, we assumed positive intent, and how to make space for each other in the church, which at the time we called the convent. And what I didn't realize at the time was that this was design work. It wasn't furniture placement, although that is very important, especially for our design majors here. Not space planning, but human-centered design. We were designing belonging in that space. This wasn't the first time that I had seen design build community. Before moving into the church, a fellow honor student and I teamed up for our honors project. Some of you guys might remember this one. This is the River Heights Community Playground. After getting the chance to participate in design development and exploration during one of our design studios, we decided to dive in fully. We went to PTA meetings, we helped fundraise, we built in the rain. We painted, it got rained off, so we had to paint again. It was a very, very soggy October. But the Menominee community also showed up. This is one of those projects where pictures are better than words. I don't have to say too much about it, but being part of this as a 20-year-old student was invaluable. We were exhausted and very soggy, like I said, at the end of the week, but it was worth every minute. Friends, Stout students, local business owners all showed up and rolled up their sleeves to help out. I looked it up recently before we were coming back. I wondered what it looked like, and I saw that it's been refreshed multiple times. Mitch's kids, I think, have played over on that playground, and that shows me that the community still cares. So in this project, design sparked ownership. So it was my first lesson. Community isn't accidental. It's built and it's maintained. You have to keep showing up. After graduation, the recession slowed my start, but life continued, relationships started, states changed. My husband and I have moved 5 times in 16 years together. We've added 2 little nomad babies to our pack, and all 4 of us have birth certificates from different states. But something interesting happened during one of those moves. I started spending a lot of time in airports. So one of our landing places was Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you haven't been there, put it on your list. It's a very fun little city. But that's where I linked up with the company that I'm with right now. They've allowed me to learn and grow into different roles within the company, and even move to a fully remote role for 4 years while we moved to Missouri. The last year of our stint down south, they offered me the position of director of design, and I started flying back to Michigan once a month for a week to attend different meetings, development, and leadership, and we started the process of a rebrand with a strong focus of strengthening the culture of our company. Downtime at the airport is where it clicked for me. Whether it is a dorm floor, a converted church, or a playground, or a workplace, we are all designing for belonging. The goal is for people to feel included, feel like they belong. I now serve as the vice president of operations at this company. This is a team picture. We're a manufacturing company as well, so we got everyone out into the parking lot. We do commercial environments, but when our clients come to us, they think they're asking for furniture. They think that the solution they're coming to us to solve is furniture. What they're actually asking for, though, is culture. We spend a lot of time at work. You guys are all about to learn this. As you graduate, you already know that we spend a lot of time doing work, but actually at work. A passion of mine is mentoring the next generation of designers and now operations teammates. But I love the fresh energy, the eagerness to learn, and the curiosity. All of you guys are difference makers, and Gina talked about this as well. You guys are thought starters, you're difference makers, and if you realize it or not, you will shape the culture of every room that you guys walk into. So understanding community, culture, belonging right off the bat will put you ahead for sure. Right now at our company, we are in a little bit of a shift with our culture. We're about to rebrand, like I said. So we're just looking at our culture, seeing how we can strengthen it. And we've got 3 pillars that we're kind of working with. So the first is trust. To build trust, you have to assume positive intent. And that can be a little bit tricky when you're in a new situation to just freely give that positive intent to someone else. But giving people the benefit of the doubt, at least to start, is a good way to start that process, to start that two-way street. What we've learned is that trust doesn't cascade up, it cascades down. So for leaders, leadership sets the tone. If leaders admit to mistakes, then others will. If leaders ask for help, then others will. And if leaders create a space to be challenged, then innovation happens. So we've started a cross-departmental ideas team that gets together and has someone from manufacturing, someone from product design, a designer or two around the table. Order entry, is the thing easy to order? Is it gonna fall apart? How's maintenance? All that kind of thing. Installers are in that room, and we get people from every department together to look at it holistically. So that innovation is great. We keep leadership out of those meetings so that there's a little bit more like free speech. They don't feel as intimidated to share their ideas. The second pillar that we are working with is inclusion. Right now we've got 5 generations in the workplace working side by side. Some grew up with the internet, some grew up without it. A lot of you guys haven't known a world without it. So this can create some friction. It definitely can create different communication styles and different expectations. But it also creates something really powerful. It gives established memory paired with bold curiosity. So when you guys get out into the real world, out into the wild, I think we talked about in design earlier today, team up with people of different generations at work. You can learn a lot from them. They'll learn a lot from you. Start that sharing of knowledge. It truly is invaluable. And there are a few places that you will find in your community where you have that interaction across generations and that closeness, those bonds that you build. The third pillar that we've got is agency. We are an employee-owned company, but the ownership isn't about stock certificates. It's about believing your voice matters. So that ideas team that we started is an example of that, but making sure that people feel like they have a voice for what they're doing every day. When people feel ownership, they don't just complete tasks, they protect the culture, they mentor the intern, they stay an extra 5 minutes to make sure a project gets done. Sometimes it's 10 minutes. But culture is just community with a mission. When you guys are all out there interviewing, I would suggest to not just ask about salary and benefits. I would ask, how do you build connection here? How do teams collaborate? Where do teams collaborate? How do you onboard people? Who would mentor me? Who's gonna train me in? Who is that person? How long have they been here? What's their background? And how would you describe the culture here? If the person that's interviewing you can't describe the company culture, then that's definitely a red flag and something to look at. A few months ago, my kids got locked out of the house. I was traveling for work, so I wasn't home. We accidentally locked the side door. So they started walking down the street to one of our neighbors. Another neighbor saw them, called my husband, made sure he knew what was going on. But they were set, he was set. That is community. That's someone paying attention. We all want to know that someone else is noticing us, understanding what we're doing. Life takes a village. It really does. It takes a village to do life, to handle life. But villages don't just build themselves. We have to build them. If you haven't found your people yet, that's okay. Sometimes community takes time. Sometimes it takes courage. And sometimes it takes you saying yes before you're ready. But my advice is to stay curious, say yes, get on the plane. Community isn't accidental, it's designed, and every one of you have the ability to build a place where someone else belongs. So, thank you.
I am just going to sit here with my face on the screen. It doesn't happen very often. If you get the opportunity to have your face on a giant screen, just roll with it. Thank you. I argue that silence is the anthem of uncertainty. If we sit with it for a while, it's very uncomfortable. But it's really kind of a great starting point for a lot of communities in designing. I moved to California in 2016 after finishing my master's program at the University of Iowa in urban and regional planning. And I had no family, I had no friends, I had never been to California. And I just decided to take a jump and travel somewhere I had never been before. And I remember the first day I got there, I had 2 suitcases and a blow-up mattress. I had no money to my name because I had paid for my own airfare out and had yet to get reimbursed. Surprise, surprise, it was mid-pay period, so I didn't get paid for like 3 weeks. So it was really struggling, and I remember going to my new apartment and just sitting there in silence and going, what did I do? What am I supposed to do next? This is so silly. And that started my journey visiting these small towns in Northern California, and I was really fortunate to have a boss at the time who said, take the city car, explore all the small towns around here, and see what you learn. And I got to go to the city of Weed, California, which, yes, weed. They do not have a lot of weed there. It's a misnomer, it's someone's name. I went to the city of McLeod and really enjoyed it, its logging history and everything. And then finally I settled on this little tiny town south of Mount Shasta called Dunsmuir. And I was like, what is this little place? And it's got these beautiful brick buildings. It's got this nice, tight, historic downtown. It had younger people. It had energy and events. I was like, wow, this really feels like Menominee. Like, this really feels like what I was missing in Iowa City, which wonderful city, but I just fell in love with small towns and just fell in love with Dunsmuir. And so when I got the opportunity to move there in 2017, I took it and I became part of that community as best I could. And then 2018 rolled around and the election cycle was coming up. And they were like, we don't have anybody running for the city council. Do you think you want to do it? I was like, yeah, I kind of know what government is. I'm a city planner. I can do it. So I joined, and you get on the ballot months ahead of elections, and they don't tell you that when you're signing up for it, that you have to endure 8 months of people asking you your opinion that you don't have yet. And during that time, a devastating wildfire broke out just south of the city. So about 12 miles south of Dunsmuir, we had the Delta Fire, which combined with the HERS fire, which, if you're following anything in California, tens of thousands of acres on fire. And essentially, the city shut down from September 5th to October 7th, which for a small town of 2,200 people that relies on tourism, it devastated the economy. We had businesses shut down that did not reopen. It was COVID-19 before COVID-19 was even a thing. We'll claim it, we've got it. And so I'm sitting here in this newly elected position on the city council, $90,000 in debt, no revenue coming in, tons of residents coming to me going, why aren't you fixing the library, the children's park, why aren't you doing this? Which sounds familiar with our current political system. And I just sat there going, what do I even do now? And I sat with that silence and with other colleagues of mine on the council, and we just said, well, we've obviously got to do something. And so I'm thankful that I got to go back into my training as a city planner in community development, economic development, and I thought, I'm like, well, what can I apply here? And so I want to introduce this concept called design thinking, if you haven't been introduced to it yet, and it is an iterative process of exploring very difficult, complex problems in a way that's human-centered. And so we started with that, and there's 3 stages to design thinking, and the first one is understanding. And that's where that silence was a gift. That moment of sitting and waiting and giving people that space and opportunity to fill it with their wants, their hopes, the things they're concerned about, and really sitting and listening to those pieces, as well as listening to the things they weren't saying. You know, similar to what we've heard tonight, sometimes people ask for something, but in reality, really what they want is to connect. They want to explore, they want someone to invest time and energy into them and feel like they really belong. And that's where we start to see community come out in this design thinking process. And what it also does, it develops empathy for people who don't share the same ideologies or political standings that we do. City planning and urban and regional planning is a nonpartisan issue. We strongly stand on the fact that we tackle problems, not people. One of those is assault. Say that all the time. And so we really looked at what is the problem here, and let's identify it and let's talk about it. And so two of the things that came out is, what are we doing to prepare our community for the next disaster? And how are we becoming more fiscally resilient so that we're able to invest in the things we want to invest in our community? And so we looked at all these public gatherings, we went to farmers markets, we met people where they're at, which is very important. I know that in the past that government has demanded that you come to the city council or you come to the next meeting, you come to the mayor's office, and we need to rethink that to best understand the communities that we're in by going to them, spending time in other people's spaces that we wouldn't traditionally have come to ours. And so we started that process of really figuring that out, and we learned that one of the biggest things people were missing in government, surprisingly, transparency. How does it work? Why is my money being spent this way? You guys are the government. You have millions of dollars to spend on this, and we didn't. And so we started with that narrative and really went to the exploring phase of design thinking. And so we're like, okay, we heard you out. We know the things that are important to you. We don't have resources yet, but we're building those resources, which is the unfun stuff that we do, like developing reserve policies and capital stacks for projects that like glaze everybody over. But while we're doing that, we're exploring all of these different avenues to achieve that goal that people wanted. So one of the things we did that didn't cost any money is we developed our first public finance committee, which has 2 members of the public assigned to it, 2 city council members, and our city treasurer who operate under a voting system. And these public meetings are advertised. These public meetings allow people to speak at them, and it allows them to really learn what a government budget is and how we have to plan out the future months, years, decades in advance for some of these big projects. So we explored that, we implemented that, and that's part of the materialization part of design thinking, is how are we exploring those things, and then how are we bringing them to fruition? And we're happy to say that we do have a reserve policy, to the point that we just got bids for a new water project that we only had $900,000 grant for. It came in at 1.9 million. Steel's very expensive. And we were able to dip into the reserves that we didn't have 8 years ago. And that's the point. We're building these longer term systems to support the values, ideas, and the things that our communities really want to do. And we're using that design thinking and constantly going back through the cycle of, am I understanding the real issue here? Am I understanding the demands of my community? And are we exploring everything that we can? One of the other things, and on the topic of playgrounds, was that we didn't own ours. We rented the space from another business in town, and I was like, well, that seems silly. It's right in the middle of our downtown. You can sit at the brewery and watch your kids play at the same time, which is very important to me in my Wisconsin upbringing. And so we started the process of, what is it going to cost to buy that? We appealed to our greater powers of the state of California and their Parks and Recreation Department for a grant, and we were able to purchase that, and not only purchase the land so we don't have to spend money on it, but also upgrade it to be ADA compliant, to be more engaging to our community. And again, we go back through the process. We fixed a problem, what's the next one? And it starts to fill that silence you feel, and it starts to unravel that uncertainty into something more important, which is the values that we are certain of and the things that need to be done to help our community. And so I just want to thank everybody here today, and thank the University of Wisconsin-Stout specifically, because before coming here, I don't think I would have known what to do. I think I would have been paralyzed by that silence and that uncertainty, as opposed to digging deep into myself and developing the gumption to really get things done. And I really hope you can take that with you today and start to become more a part of your community, to understand each other, to explore different options, and to materialize or manifest those solutions to those issues. So thank you. Go back.
It's a good time to grab more snacks. Are there any left? Looks like there are. They're running now. No one's running. Oh, some people are going. Okay. Oh, now you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Good.
Check, check. Okay. As much as we love your face, Juliana.
Yeah. Again, you really got to play yourself up sometimes. Like you got to embrace it. It's taken me years to do that.
I love that.
So a lot of times the thanks either open the evening or end up at the end a rushed afterthought. But I wanted to make sure that I express some gratitude. To me, one core principle of community is that of gratitude. So I really want to thank the ETC staff that's here tonight. We've got folks in the booth, and they did an amazing job to put such a professional setup for us here. So let's thank our tech crew and our event crew. We have Zach, our cameraman from Marcom, who's here to take us wonderful photos. Thank you, Zach. I want to thank our honors staff. My assistant director, Katie Benson, our program associate, Amy Brostrom, and I saw her before, Xanthi Gerasimo, our academic advisor. There's an inordinate amount of work that those three have helped provide to make this happen and make everything in the Honors College run so smoothly for our students. So thanks to them very much. And then finally, in my thanks to our provost, Glenda Rodriguez, who's right here in the front. In addition to financial support, Glenda Lee supports the Honors College through her energy and her vision. She's one of my favorite colleagues. We have really many wonderful conversations. You may or may not know that Glenda Lee has served as provost for 5 years. Well, 5+.
More than that, because I think you became provost right as I was leaving.
Well, which years count? I don't know. And what you don't know, what you might not know, is that Glenda Lee's time as the provost of the University of Wisconsin-Stout is coming to a close this year. But what you need to know is that she is not leaving. So you saw Glenda Lee as a mentor for Melanie's projects with the River Heights playground. So Glenda Lee will be returning to a faculty role in the construction management program, and I look forward to, I don't know, team teaching, all of the great work together as colleagues. But to the provost who gives so much support, and to our future faculty colleague returning again, thank you, Glenda Lee. And we will thank at the end these three who have spent a day. I ran them around. I ran them ragged, up and down the hill. They were having memories, maybe post-traumatic memories, icy sidewalks. Good weather for you today. Look at the sensible shoes, right, that Gina came prepared with. Yeah, very, very smart. All right, so you've gotten to see some peace. Maybe you interacted with them throughout the day, those of you who were at the different gatherings we had. But would really love, so I'm warming you up now to bring these questions to the mics. They're here in the center, up on the front, on the left and right. And so be thinking about that question. Go ahead and step to the mic, flip it on, and we'd love to hear what you're thinking and give a chance for these three to dig in to what you're saying. Now, you might need a moment. So we're going to allow a little of that silence to work.
It's a vacuum. It'll suck the ideas out.
So who has a question, a comment, an example they want to share, something they want to bring into the conversation?
I guess I'll ask a question for both of you. In terms of your career trajectories, what have you learned or put in place that has created community in your own lives, whether it's your personal life or your work life? Like, what are some things that you hold to that you really like, it makes you feel connected with other people and your work or life, that piece of community?
That's a good question. Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I think, well, communities don't just happen, as you mentioned, Juliana, and I think that that's such an important element. So you want to be very thoughtful about who you engage with. And right now, I'm in this beautiful time in my career where I'm actually remote working. And I am also employee number 3 in the state of Minnesota for the current employer that I have. So everybody that I interact with is online. And that is an interesting dynamic because I've always worked in the office space, going into an office, interacting with colleagues, but never like in this totally virtual concept. So what's really important is scheduling those one-on-one time with people, so you've got that space to have conversations privately, discuss things, and then also recognizing, like in the workspace with the team, focus groups and interests of team members where we can explore topics and talk about some computational methods that possibly, are advancing our science mission. So there's a plethora of topics that unite people, and I think that that is kind of the key, is where people's passions are, and allowing that space for people to come together, have these conversations, and make it a really safe space too, so that people feel comfortable talking.
That's great. Similarly, I'm kind of reverse and then re-reverse. So I worked remote in Missouri for 4 years, away from everybody. I had designed in an office up until that point, and then went fully remote. So that was a really big shift. It was during COVID as well. So we moved from Michigan to Missouri during COVID. So building a community in Missouri was really hard because nobody was outside at all.
Yeah.
No one was outside. You had to run around and find people. I had kids by then, so kids help you kind of build community. Not always the community you would pick, but you kind of learn that element of it. So having online resources, Teams, Zoom calls, making sure that your camera's on, I think would be a big point with that. So if you guys are in remote learning now, or if you're in a remote position when you get out into the field, putting your camera on is a huge part of it. I still work from home a lot, so I get it. Leggings, sweatpants, I get the whole thing. I've taught a couple members of my team to keep like a blazer and a pile of accessories next to their monitor. Just like layer on some necklaces and put some glasses on and you're good to go. Just like turn the camera on. I don't really care, just do it. Because that face-to-face interaction really does help. And like we use Teams at work, so everyone's got a little picture and everyone's picture is really cute, but it doesn't replace the eye contact, and you really do get a lot more out of the interactions when your camera is on and you're talking to people. And now when I get to go into the office, I am running around chatting with everybody. I make sure to make that one-on-one time in person too. And usually I make a reference to why they keep me remote most of the time, because I'm a little bit of a chaos agent when I'm in person. But it's a lot of fun. I try to make sure that all the departments are talking to each other too. So creating a community at work where you aren't afraid to go to other departments. If you're starting in a new company, go and see what a completely opposite department is doing. Go and just find someone over there. Start talking with them. See if you can build a relationship there, because that innovation point happens with the collaboration of different thinkers. So find people who don't think like you, and that helps a lot. How about you? What have you done?
Yeah, mine is fun because I'm in government right now. So you can imagine, I'm on both sides of the dais, so I get yelled at by the general public during the day and get yelled at night. You know, I think what I've learned, and I think I've mentioned it earlier today, so these two may have like already heard this a lot. Even if I'm getting yelled at, you know, to create community with people who are very different from me and who have different ideology and different life experiences, I've learned to ask a lot of questions. People like talking about themselves. They like their interests. And I did say that I would save this for today, but there is a woman who I had been in my job with the city of Wairika for 1 week. I had not gone to my first city council meeting yet. And right before that city council meeting, this woman who I'd never met sent an email to all of the city council members, very upset that I had gotten hired, and had my favorite insult, which was, although no one can question Juliana's work ethic, her personality is terrible. And I was like, but you can't say I do a bad job. You can't say I do a bad job. And you know what? I'm at my job, and that's a compliment. I'm gonna take it. It's like my, you know, those like waves and sand, and it's like the inspirational quote. So I love it. But that same woman who has always had a very combative relationship with me, I always say hi to her. I am always polite to her. And I always ask her about what she's doing, what's going on. I ask her questions, and you know, she was the only person who showed up for a public event once, and it was pleasant. She actually had some really good ideas. She's like, this is what I think we should use this money for. And I was like, look at that. I was like, look at you go, Jan. You did a great job. So, you know, it goes back to, we're in this state, you know, we have a lot of social media and a lot of communication happening, but I think it's a lot of noise and not meaningful communication and connection. But I think once we start to ask questions and dig deeper into these different people in our lives, you start to realize like you're really not that different. Like that's my favorite, is when people are like, I don't want affordable housing, but it's way too expensive to live here. And how are people supposed to make a living if they can't have a nice house? So I think you should build more housing. And I'm like, okay, we got there. It was not a roundabout way, but we got there. So yeah, I've been asking a lot of questions and just being genuinely curious about people and trying to understand that about them. And it really builds that relationship.
There, speaking of Glenda Lee.
Yes, hi, and thank you for, I'm very humbled by the thank you to me. So I just want to commend the three of you because you have an amazing presence. You are very confident. And I was curious to that end if you'd like to share who are role models that have helped you to get to this point, to be articulate, to be confident, and you know, to be where you are today.
Do we get brownie points if we say you? Do you guys want to go first? I can take that.
Gosh, that's a really good question, Glenda Lee. First of all, thank you for that compliment, because I don't know if you guys could tell, but I was pretty nervous, so I was a little shaky, not feeling exactly confident. But I think with presence matters. How you project yourself really matters. Staying present in the moment and realizing, okay, I'm not going to die if I go up on stage. I'm not going to die, even though I feel like it at times. But speaking in front of people is definitely a learned skill. It was something that I did not have. I know that I had a speech class here at Stout that definitely taught me some of the basics. And then as you progress in your career, you're realizing, wow, I'm getting on the stage and I'm talking to hundreds of people. You start getting a little desensitized to it. And then it's fun when you get the lobbed questions at you, the really hard ones that are really not nice. So when you're in an audience like this, it's very receptive. When I looked out at everybody's faces, it was just genuine interest and curiosity. So I felt in a safe place. So I think just even the energy in the room, Mitch setting us up so well, all of that definitely kind of brought, I think, to this moment. But as far as role models, for me, it has always, I'm in a predominantly male-driven career with computers. I really am. I could show photos where it's just me. Really just me. So I didn't necessarily have a lot of female role models, but what I would listen to and watch is just colleagues that would come up and just know their craft, speak with integrity, and really want to model that, not just for myself, but for others. So that, it was a lot of models all at once for me.
Love that. Good intro, right?
I can go. I've got a couple if you need more seconds.
Do you?
Yeah. The comment is funny, but I mean, it is genuine. My experience here at the University of Wisconsin-Stout is so formative to everything, because I didn't have these opportunities when I was growing up. It's not something that I was super out with, but, I grew up in a family with a chronic alcoholic. I have cut ties with my family, certain things like that. And, coming here, I was a very quiet person, and a lot of people don't realize I am an introvert, and I can do this now. I'm a mayor of a city. I talk in front of people all the time. But it was coming here and really understanding that when you're being authentic, it's very easy to talk in front of people, because this is just who I am. I'm not going to, and I'm a bit crass, I'll be honest. And that fighting against that natural piece of myself and being high conflict and a little bit more assertive than, talking about gender dynamics, being a more assertive woman, I just lean into it, and I'm just like, you know what, that's just who I am. This is just who I'm going to talk about. I see Mary McManus is back there with Darian, and she's another one where just showing up as your authentic self, whether you're quiet or loud or assertive or gentle, everybody is needed in society like that. I talk about councils, city councils. When I first started with the city of Dunsmuir, it was predominantly older white men. And, it is still predominantly white. I wish there was more diversity on our council to represent the people who actually live in the city. But now our new council is all 5 mid-30-year-olds, which how many entire city councils are? I think the oldest one of us is like 38. I think I'm still the youngest at 35. But, that just doesn't happen in a lot of places. And I think a lot of that was we were just being our authentic selves and treating leadership in the way that we see it. Like, there is no one leader. There's no one public speaker. And so I think accepting the authenticity, and also just accepting that things are not going to work out when you publicly speak. Like, I finally got diagnosed with ADHD in 2021 officially, which makes a lot of sense. And so I know that I need to have something to hold on to. And one of my colleagues got this for me. It's a challenge coin. So if you were in the military, you get these challenge coins. This is the government challenge coin, he said, and it is a photo of a dumpster on fire. And it says, "The strongest steel is forged in the fire of a dumpster." And so I know that I need to fidget, and so this is what I have when I talk, and for some reason it's this weird little talisman, and I can talk now, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
We love dumpster fires in the design department.
Yes, yes, chaos.
Chaos all the time. I didn't know where to start before with with mentors. There's been so many in my life. Stout has a plethora of wonderful women. There are many here tonight. I would say my first one was my mom. She was a feisty little thing, and we moved a lot, so I had to kind of reset every 4 years as a kid, and it can be intimidating to be the new kid in school again. So I think I had to learn how to have a voice early, not necessarily speaking in front of everybody. It's still not my best attribute, just kind of wing it. And then through business, I've had a lot of really wonderful mentors. A couple of sales managers, actually. So not in the design department, but over in the sales department, who have helped a lot because they are on the sales side. So when you're a design major, you get really into your design, and what doesn't always kind of come around is that you have to sell your design. And I think with everybody, whatever you're doing, you have to sell that project, you have to sell that idea, you have to sell that technology to somebody. So we're all really in a sales role when it comes down to it. So Steve helped me just kind of see it that way. I was really like, no, I'm a designer. I am not a salesperson. I'm not going to do that. So by kind of breaking down that barrier and just getting more comfortable in front of clients is kind of where a lot of that started happening. And then I just say yes to things and do things scared. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. Get up on stage and wing it.
Question, please, or comment.
Yeah, my question's about job opportunities. Potentially, like, looking at jobs and what, like, kind of factors and things you looked at when posed with multiple opportunities and trying to figure out which one would be the best for you.
Exciting. Oh, cities are like that constantly. Yeah, it's you know, do I spend money on a $35 million fire hall project, or do I build a new homeless shelter? You know, cities have to deal with this all the time, but, you know, going into the job opportunity thing, I would really recommend everybody do this, is just kind of sit with yourself and either have like a list of words that are like values, whether it be focus or charity or, you know, vision, learning, things like that. I'm working with a cohort of planners right now through a leadership academy, and we did this exercise where just like, what matters to you? Like, what's the make it or break it thing? Like, get a list of 10 things and then narrow it down from there. And it's really hard to narrow it down of like, what is my top thing that I need in my job or what I value in my job? And like, what are some other things that would be great? But like, you know, we get there. Because guess what? Your first job's not going to be great. You know, my boss quit the second Monday I was on my job in California. And remember, I moved there with no safety net. And the guy who hired me goes, hey, by the way, I'm leaving like in a week. No one was in charge of me for 3 months, which is a terrifying prospect. I should not be left alone for that long. But going back to it, when you get into those moments, again, getting into those moments of uncertainty of like, what do I do? You have to come back to who you are as a person right now, and you can change, and that's fine. But like, really think like, what do I value? What do I want to do? Do I want work-life balance? Do I want to really dig deep into a topic area and really kind of go through and kind of do those value statements? I think that gives you a good start of like, what's a great way to then weigh these opportunities into who I want to be right now or who I want to become. So.
I would ask both companies, or if there's 3 that are fighting over you, awesome. I would ask them what the growth potential is. So this is the job I am interviewing for and looking at, but what would you do with this position in 5 years? What would you do in, I would cut it down a little bit, 3 years, 5 years. Have them give you a range. What is the career path? Not a lot of companies kind of take a position and map it out, and so you can get really bored really quickly. Growth opportunity.
That is some awesome advice you just received. Thank you, guys. Made it easy. I would just bring it back, and if I'm looking at job opportunities, really look at the companies, their charters and mission, also looking at the culture, and if that resonates with where I want to spend my time and talent, because that is very important as we talk about our communities by design, your workplace by design. That sense of belonging does matter if you can rally behind that mission that that company has. So I would encourage you to do some research, and if you happen to know any current employees, ask them, what is the culture like? That's a really, really important aspect. And I think with the growth those are definitely good questions. All the advice that you received just now is really good advice. Good luck. What a fun time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we've got a couple questions on the other side.
Hello. What is your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of your job?
Well, for me, it's definitely the people. I mean, I have the coolest job in the world, and I always just kind of pinch myself that they're actually paying me to do this job. And that's the kind of job that I had aspired to, is to be in a job that I just love, where I just don't spend, I'm not thinking about the time. People. The people really matter to me. My team really matters to me. And I want to make sure that they know I have their back, and I want to know that they have my back. And I think that it's really all about the people.
It really is. You bond with the people you're working with. The culture of the workplace is huge for how they get that the collaboration between people and departments. Our design team is who I've been with the longest, so they have a special place in my heart. But I've recently taken on a couple other teams, so I'm getting to know them, their workflows, what other connectivity they need too. We have a couple other remote workers mixed in, so how to pull them out of being remote. And we have a wonderful internship program with our design department. So we've got 3 full-time designers that were once interns for us, and I love that. We bring 2 interns in every summer. They're brand new, they're excited, they can't wait, and we throw them in front of a client right away and just
Sink or
say, good
swim.
luck. Yeah, sink or swim, you're gonna do it. No, we prep them a little bit first, but the energy that they bring in at the intern level is awesome, and you can tell really fast what they're gonna do, if they're gonna be able to handle it. The design industry can be a little bit of a roller coaster, so you've got to have thick skin there, but really it comes down to the people. It's the best.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have the job that I do, because I tangibly make people's lives better. And government is very slow because we're dealing with other people's money in most circumstances. But you know, going back to this point of building a playground and being able to go back years later and look at it and realize, like, I did that, and like I helped that community realize that goal, and it's providing something for them. And you know, I in my role as I've gone up, you know, I started as a city planner with Mount Shasta. I went over to Wairika and then worked up to community development. Now I'm the assistant city manager. You know, I get to do very complex, hard things that end up benefiting communities for a lifetime. One of the projects I can talk about now that I've mentioned today is I'm at the end of negotiating a purchase of water rights in California, which is a Western state thing. And we are purchasing and decommissioning a hydroelectric facility from Pacific Power so that this community in perpetuity will have access to water. No one's gonna charge them for it. You know, it's not gonna be a private good anymore. And to know that I have set a community up for a lifetime of success is really gratifying. Same thing too, we deal with some really complex issues like the unhoused population. We have everything going on with immigration in the Twin Cities, which is very publicized, but it's happening in every community. We have it where we're at as well with farm workers. And to implement policies that humanize people and make them feel part of the community. We do a very big job of not saying citizens anymore, we say residents. Because to be honest, I don't care what your legal status is. You live in my community, I plan for you, that's it. And to humanize people is such a gratifying thing when you see so much of the opposite happening. And so for me, it's just so gratifying to trudge through, and the water purchase is like a 2.5-year thing. It takes a very long time, but to see it through to the end and understand that I have made a positive impact for people is really gratifying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So you 3 have talked about how there's been different experiences in your life that have maybe challenged you and helped you develop those values that you have for developing future communities. And kind of going off of what Ella had asked you, you guys all said that people are like your favorite things about your jobs. Has there ever been a time where someone has approached you in your job and has told you directly that they do not feel welcomed in the community that you're trying to build? And how did you approach that?
Yes, that's a great question. Some of leadership's job is to create those one-on-one moments where you can check in and kind of keep an eye on that. So the goal is to not have that happen. The goal is to know, as a leader, I've got this person who's maybe having a rough time. We need to work on that. We had a designer who was going through some health issues and then mental health issues. She was having a hard time finding her footing. She was having a hard time finding conflict-free zones at work, essentially. So I spent a lot of time with her just kind of talking through what was going on, talking through kind of her side of it, talking to some of the rest of the team on their side. And we started doing some work from home days to separate the teams. That department is really close and usually close-knit, but sometimes when there is conflict, the best thing is just to physically separate a little bit. The work from home days also allowed for like heads down, creative process, flow state, uninterrupted. Our salespeople at my company like to chat, which is wonderful. That's their job, but it can create a hard, like, creative arc, right? If a designer is creating and someone's always interrupting, that gets really tricky. So there's some other like natural tensions that can happen in the office. We just kind of separated that out a little bit to see if that would help. But that's a great question. It definitely happens. It's something you have to be on the lookout for. And the main thing is just to try to stay connected to your teams, so you see it coming, and you're a little more proactive instead of reactive with situations like that.
It's a really good answer. Curiosity too. Being a leader, you do want to take that time, that pause, and just do all the checkouts, of course, but then also it's an opportunity to learn from that person on, why the grievance, what their perception is, and you can find a lot of interesting information that way. So I've been in situations where I've dealt with employees that either have been disengaged or the sense of belonging. I haven't had that one happen yet, but it's more of the disengagement. And it's really getting curious on what's happening. Maybe there isn't the work assignment, there isn't excitement. There's a plethora of reasons for why that can happen. But it is important, because that can be one person can really have quite the impact on the rest of the community. So it is something that you do want to watch for and be aware of. And the only way that I know how to do that is actually that direct engagement individually, and then observing your team in practice and interacting and ensuring that, hey, you're giving feedback in a timely manner and noticing that. So it's really being present with the people on your team. Good question.
And I think from mine, again, dealing with a lot of members of the public who are unhappy for various reasons. I brought this up in a class earlier today. If you don't know this, there are 3 ways you vote in the United States. One is on the ballot, one is with your dollar, and the other is with your feet. And we focus on the third one because each community makes value statements, makes visioning promises, and the communities that don't do well are the ones who want everything. They want big industry, but they want small mom and pop. They want to be tourism, but they want, privacy. These communities that want to be on every side of the spectrum are the ones that have the hardest time identifying their values and their identity. And especially working with small towns, we want everything. But the ones that make conscious choices to go, we just don't want to go that direction. This is our community. We have collectively decided you know, via the elected officials, via ballot initiatives or whatever it may be in democracy. You know, for local, speaking of local specifically, each city makes choices and priorities, and sometimes people don't like that, and that's okay. It's kind of being comfortable with disappointment sometimes, and just going, you know, I did my best, you know, this is what we've collectively agreed on. If you don't like it, there are hundreds of thousands of other communities you can live in that value the same thing you do. And I think that's something we've been scared of, is conflict. And I've talked about this several times today. I'm very high conflict because I don't think conflict is a bad thing. I think it's just coming to an understanding of what your values are and making a definitive choice. And, you know, you try your best to get everybody in the community to get along, but there are just going to be some people who are unhappy. And I've gotten ranted at and yelled at, and, you know, typically what I do in that circumstance is I listen, I'll ask questions if I need to, and at the end of it I go, okay, and they're like, so what are you going to do about it? I'm like, nothing. We've made this decision, this is when it was made, you know, thank you for your opinion, and I'm happy to talk with you more, but the conversation's over. And it diffuses people so quickly. You would think people keep arguing, but they don't. They just go, oh, okay. And, you know, there's a way to do it where a person is still able to be accepted in a community. It's just like that behavior or that idea just wasn't the direction we went. So it's hard, it's uncomfortable, but, you know, it's important. You know, if you don't stick to those values, what are you really sticking to at that point? So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a little bit of a different perspective than the workplace.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, this might be our last question. Oh man.
It's so fast.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. So you guys were once in our shoes, and I was wondering, what is one thing that Stout can add to help current students or future students connect and build stronger creative communities?
It does a really good job right now.
That is a tough question.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm like, what is missing?
I know, there's so
Where's
many
the
things.
room for opportunity
Yeah.
here? There are so many engagement opportunities that it's really difficult for me to advise on a one thing. I have to think about that.
You stumped us. Maybe marketing the student government, student body.
And like the student organization, Stout Student Association is
Yes.
the government one.
Maybe some different, like visiting some of the classrooms to just talk to students in a smaller
Focus group.
smaller
type
focus
thing.
group. Yeah. Sometimes it's intimidating to, we were talking about, was it the Jarvis Hall?
Yeah.
All of the groups that you have to go visit, and it's kind of overwhelming as a freshman coming in to like, how am I gonna find my community? I don't know where my classes are. I don't know, you know, what I'm doing, who's living next to me, and then to pick a group. So maybe a little bit farther through freshman year, even trying to get sophomores in and just kind of going in. I think you talked about going to the people. So go to where the students are and meet them that way. There's so many opportunities here though that it's hard to say what the ad would be.
I agree. I think Stout does a really amazing job and really has the high benchmark that they've set for other colleges. And I am well versed in other college communities and just knowing how other peers of mine, what their experience was. And I feel that Stout has really kind of the highest marks of any college. So I've shared this before, but you really made the right decision coming here to UW-Stout.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the individual. It comes down to you too. You know, yeah. I think, and I've told this like 3 times now today, but this is the one time in your life, or maybe you'll have multiple opportunities, but this is at least the first time for a lot of people where you are at an institution that genuinely wants you to succeed. And it's not going to prescribe to you what that success looks like. And I think being in that type of environment, you're not going to get that after you leave unless you're going to another institution, and even then grad school is a different level of trauma.
Truth.
Yeah, it took me years to get off that caffeine addiction. But this is such a great space to explore and fail. We talk about failure all day in different circumstances. You're gonna be bad at things. I cannot drive stick shift. That is okay. I accept that about myself. But this is the time to try stuff. I lived in an apartment building where 2 of the 5 units were Saudi Arabian international students, and I would have never interacted with someone from Saudi Arabia if I hadn't lived in that type of, collective apartment building and like really learning about them and their culture. And I think if there was anything I were to advertise, and I think it's great that you have the themes every year now. That I don't think we were necessarily doing thematic years and focusing on that, but just focusing on being open to opportunities, and I think maybe continuing that messaging of like, this is your time to explore. Go mess up, like go fail. Like I've miserably failed multiple times in my life. And failing at Stout was much easier because you have people here who are looking out for you, whether you see them behind you or not. They're gonna catch you, if you fail something. So go do everything.
Thank you. That answered it.
Okay.
I really don't want this to be done. But we'll wrap up. So now let me just, here are a few things that I heard throughout the day, but including tonight. There's this intentionality, right? Melanie, you said it, I think, most clearly, that design is not accidental. And so I'd invite us to, what do we take away from this tonight? What sort of sticks with this? I wonder if that intentionality, every decision, the expression we hold on our face during class, the comment we make or we refrain from making, the choice we make where to sit in a room, all of that intentionality has the potentiality to create, even for a moment, that piece of community, that bit of belonging that could make all the difference. I'm struck by like the random Dave Matthews T-shirt connection that now is like a lifelong friend, a friend you can't probably imagine your life experience without. So the intentionality of approaching and commenting on a T-shirt without knowing where it will go. So I think that intentionality, the purpose, and being thoughtful and mindful in your work is something I've heard from all of you today. Obviously, the human-centeredness, both of design and community. Our community is nothing without being a collection of fellow humans, and design has grown into a user-centered, human-centered enterprise. And I love that design thinking is now commonplace. It's not the sort of proprietary mode of thinking for artists and designers exclusively. It's permeated, I think, every organization and every field and every endeavor. And I think because it pays attention to the humans. There's lots of 5 values and 3 processes of design thinking, but empathy is one that surfaces frequently. And so really loving the people around us, seeing the people around us. I've heard you talk about that, how important it is to value them, to validate them, to respect them, even when you don't agree at all. And I think finally, what I've heard is the joy that comes from working and living in these kind of ways. We talk about community by design, yes, by applying design principles, but also as a driving goal and value. And I see the joy in all of you. You've brought it to this campus. You've brought energy to dozens and dozens of us that you've met throughout the day, to this room full tonight. And so I just want to thank you for being a part of this community. It is beautiful to see how deeply it has impressed and has built and launched you into your lives. And it's been all day. I have seen the authentic pleasure and the remembrance of this place and a gratitude for what happens here. That we all hold in common. It's one of those common values and experiences that each of us in the room, we're a part of this place that we call UW-Stout. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for never leaving us. And thank you for all that you do and where you've taken this and put it out further and further into the world. It is truly a better place for you. For that, I thank you. We thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight. It looks like the food's gone. So if you move too slowly, that's on you. But thanks for coming out, and we will look forward to the next gathering.
Thank you.